Remember last week, we were all over the coming collapse of Deutsche Bank and the effect that it was going to have on the U.S. economy. Tonight, we're going to take it even a step further. And what we're going to do is ask a question about whether we are already in an actual recession. And here is why we need to ask this question. All right, stay with me. So the media explanation, some would say spin, on what a recession is back-to-back negative GDP numbers, right? That's what we've always been told. That's what we've heard. But a lot of economists are saying it's really more about a measure of four different metrics, right? Real business sales, industrial production, real personal income, which peaked back in December, and labor, actual labor numbers, employment. Joining us now is Ian Weiner. He's a philosopher and an investor who is the author of Ubiquitous Relativity. My truth is not the truth. Ubiquitous Relativity. Boy, that's a great caption. That's a great title for a book, by the way. I'm going to remember it and want to go out and read it, by golly. Okay, let's get right to where the rubber meets the road here. Are we, or might we already be soon in a recession?
So technically, like you said, we're not in a recession. I imagine we will be by Q1, Q2 of 2020, just based on growth slowing. But what is interesting is that you've got the executive branch, the Federal Reserve, and even Congress now approving this debt ceiling increase today, all acting like something bad is coming because they're all preparing for the worst. And you don't try to weaken the dollar, and you don't try to get the Fed to cut rates dramatically if things are great. And so that's where I think you can keep an eye on it.
So here's where things get really weird. And the average American out there feels like somebody's BSing them, right? Because of what you just said, and because we are all learning that as soon as next week, there could be another interest rate cut by the Fed. Why are we hearing you say that? Why are we hearing the interest rates are going to be cut while we're hearing the President of the United States and many others, both Democrats and Republicans, saying that we are now experiencing the greatest economy in the history of the planet Earth? Something's got to give, man. They both can't be true.
Well, you know, let me spare you the suspense. Somebody is BSing the general public, and you know, it is crazy to think of a stock market at all-time highs, an economy that's supposedly booming, and yet you're all over the Federal Reserve to cut rates even further and to flush more money into the system. So, you know, I get the sense that the pressure is happening because the closer we get to the election, the more important it is that the stock market stays here. And the Federal Reserve, who has now lost a lot of its independence, is basically saying, we will do whatever it takes to keep this expansion going. And to me, that means they're putting a floor in the stock market.
By the way, those things I mentioned, industrial production, real business sales, real personal income, not including government checks and stuff like that. Real employment numbers. Those are the actual metrics that are used by many of the people, or an agency out there, I think, that's in charge of finding out whether we're in a recession or not. And as I understand it, 3 of the 4 of those are down, correct?
Yes, I would add that, you know, what really matters is you know, wage growth. And we're not really seeing any of that. And the income inequality that continues to get worse, to me, is a much bigger issue than industrial production. So unless we see people's wages go up and go up in line with any kind of inflation, that's going to be a much bigger headwind for the economy than whether or not we're actually filling jobs. What we don't talk about is that a lot of those jobs are low-paying jobs or people working 2 or 3 shifts.
That's why I'm trying to get this guy, I think his name is Andrew Yang, on here. He's got an interesting philosophy about how we maybe need to start looking at a future where everybody has some kind of guaranteed salary or number that they get in terms of income so that we can stimulate the economy. But that's perhaps for another day. Let me ask you this. I'm thinking about what you're saying, and if there's another rate cut, How far can it go? Are we looking like they've done in Europe at 0 or even negative rates here in this country? And should we be worried about that?
The answer is yes. I think it's non-consensus that we actually go to negative rates. And anybody who has a pension, anybody who has money in the bank should be incredibly concerned because everything's going to start to go down in value. Imagine that. You're going to have $1 in the bank and it could be worth 97 cents.
Wow. That's probably the most powerful thing that I take out of this conversation that you and I just had, that you have $1 in the bank, but it's actually going to be worth 97 cents. In America, in the United States of America. Damn. Ian Weiner, you're a good guest. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me, Rick.
So you haven't heard that we're the ones covering the stories that you won't see covered anywhere else? In Venezuela, Kazakhstan. Let's go to Hong Kong. And the media reaction to that has been crickets. How about the way we cover those stories? What the hell does that mean? Wally, Wally, Wally. That's the key word in this case, uprising. Keep? Can you believe that? Watching. This is the right thing for members of the media to do, to actually pick sides. Look, if you like what you see, subscribe.